Right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed that interview with Andrew Casanova. Hope you've been inspired, and mothers, I feel it's a wonderful tribute to all of you all over the world. And after the break, I will be joined by Jass Meagher, the world's best Mariah Carey tribute act. She also does Whitney Houston and Alicia Keys. So, looking forward to seeing you all after the break. Okay, brilliant. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with yours truly, Esther Austin. And today with me, I have the bubblicious, the delightful Jass Meagher. I love that Meagher. And it's a real privilege. Now, before I ask Jazz to introduce herself a little more formally, I met this wonderful lady, I think it was 2 years ago, when I attended a fashion show hosted by, what was the lady's name now again? It
It's
was,
been a couple years. I do know one of the designers was Katia, and I was wearing some of her gowns. And I
yes,
think it was Lana Flame, I believe it
That's
was.
it, Yarn Flame, absolutely. And I had my granddaughter with me, and I was trying to rush out the door because we were waiting for Jazz to come on because my granddaughter was fixated with this lady, and I knew I was running late to get her back to her parents because it was after 9 o'clock. She just wouldn't budge, and I'm learning to listen to her. She was just totally enthralled by Jazz, not just by your singing, but also by the way you looked. And so we stayed till about 9:30, 10, just for this little girl to meet this incredible woman. And so, Jazz, you do have a presence. There's an essence about you. So, in a nutshell, or maybe a coconut shell, who is Jazz?
Okay, so just firstly, I'd like to say I remember the beautiful little girl and her enjoying the singing, and I saw her face, and I specifically thought, I have to sing as many lovely songs for her as possible. And on the day, I believe I was singing Leona Lewis, I was singing Mariah
Yeah.
Carey, and I was singing Alicia Keys because, I sing a lot of different material. The main tribute I do is to Mariah Carey. And obviously, I have a natural resemblance to her. It's the curly hair and the fact that I am mixed race. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm first and foremost a singer in my own right. I started as a songwriter, and
Mhm.
I only discovered Mariah when I was about 11 or 12 years old. So up until that point, I'd never heard of her.
Mm. Okay, so that's the start. And it's really key. Like I said, I've listened to and watched quite a few of your interviews, and you are very clear about who you are when you are performing Mariah, when you are performing Whitney, but also you're
Mhm,
very clear about Jazz as an individual person, and that's quite unique. That
mhm.
you're not giving away anything, but you're adding to. So just tell us a little bit about Jazz, the singer in her own right, the singer-songwriter, a little bit more about her.
Well, music has been my life for my entire life, and my mother is a singer-songwriter, and we did used to do a lot of traveling and visiting festivals when I was younger. My influences are all the way from David Bowie to Kate Bush to the likes of Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, from Motown music to rock music to soul and swing and just very eclectic mix. So I was in sort of the music environment, the live music scene, all the way since I was a child. We toured Europe with my mom. She plays guitar and she writes her own songs. So a lot of my songwriting abilities, they came from, my mom's sort of gifts, and I learned a lot of things growing up. But when I moved to London, it was a great decision for her because I grew up in Scotland until I was about, I think I was around 10, and it wasn't very multicultural, and it was a smaller Scotland and a small town, and I moved to the big city, where I completed my high school education. But after school, I decided I wanted to pursue music. So I enrolled in college. I did a course, a BTEC course in popular music at Westminster. I think it's Westminster Kingsway College, and in 2000, and Westminster Kingsway College is actually has a drama course too, as well as a popular music course, and people like Keira Knightley actually went there. I'm sure people have heard of her. And that course just gave me the grounding and all the technique I needed, all the way from composition to production to songwriting to vocal training, and that was the first course I ever did. I began doing a lot of songwriting showcases off the back of that course all the way around London, just playing my own songs. I believe one of a great accomplishment for me as a songwriter was I entered UK Unsigned, and I reached the finals of that at the Hackney Empire. I'm sure you'll be familiar with the Hackney Empire.
And you know, have you always been this confident?
I'm sorry, I'm just losing you a little bit on the mic, so I'm trying to.
Yeah, have you always been this confident? Because there's a confidence that you carry. You know, have you always been this confident within yourself?
Um, yes, because I feel like talent is not just about being good at something. It's about training and refining and growing as in your own artistry and also in your ability to do covers. Because I feel that if anyone sings a cover, they're in some way performing a tribute. And if you learn from the greats and then, you know, have your own individuality and apply that to whatever you're performing, and that gives you the confidence you need. And I feel that confidence is about really knowing who you are. And just because you're performing a tribute, it doesn't mean you don't know what your own influences are or what your own stylistic preferences are. And you don't have to do it exactly the same, in my opinion. You can obviously, from a technical perspective, if you're singing in the style of, then there are very specific stylistic nuances between one kind of singing. For instance, Alicia Keys, who uses a lot of blues riffing. Another singer who might do that is Christina Aguilera. She uses lots of blues scale riffing, whereas Mariah Carey's riffing is very, very different, and she's not doing a lot of blue notes. And her technique is, because I've studied the different techniques from different singers and songwriters, I can deliver the style of that material without mimicking them exactly, which keeps my originality.
Yes, keeps you very unique. And I guess that sort of leads on to the next question of, and I think you may have answered it in your own way, but how do you separate the two? How do you separate your unique individuality and your originality from the artists that you're almost immersed in, especially with when you constantly be performing them, especially you're in Las Vegas, you've been in Las Vegas and you've been on. I mean, that's an incredible achievement. So how do you stop the two from merging and keep them distinct whilst keeping the uniqueness of both?
That's a great question. That is a great question. And I think a lot of that comes down to performance skills and, of course, a little bit of acting. Because, when an actor plays a character from movie to movie or script to script, they have to have slightly different characteristics and body language through in their movement. And that's very, very important. That's almost visually almost more important to have the mannerisms of the actor portraying than to have the voice sounding exactly the same. So, when you study the original artist and you study their mannerisms, and then you try to you take on board what's natural to what you would do. Like, you don't try to mimic every single aspect of what they do if you want it to come across authentically as your version of a tribute to, say, Whitney Houston, because I feel like it can be a bit pastiche if you overdo it. So you just have to study the mannerisms of each artist and their body language, how they talk, their accent, how they look. Obviously, the costumes are a very big part of that. I mean, for me, when I'm performing as Mariah, I use often, instead of this natural look with the curly hair, which she was very big with in 1990s, I have a blonde hairpiece or blonde wigs. And if I'm wearing a blonde wig and I'm singing the material that goes along with that era, then it's easier for me to incorporate the body language and then come across as Mariah Carey as well as the voice. But for instance, if I'm tributing Whitney Houston, I might just tie my hair up and have like an early 1987 sort of young Whitney Houston, really fun, colorful makeup. And then the mannerisms from back then were just super in the 1980s, and I like portraying that side of Whitney. And really, audience members have actually said at some of my shows, I'll do a double show. I'll do Whitney Houston first, and then Mariah Carey. And that show's called, Mariah Carey vs. Whitney Houston. And I've done that on tour around United Kingdom a lot. And the audience will say, is that the same girl? If I've got friends out there who've come to see me, they'll hear the audience going, is that the same girl? They'll think that, there's two different singers who've come on.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've done my and I watched the Mariah act, and then I watched you come out as Whitney, and I had to do a double retake because was totally different. And in that sense, that's a skill as well to be able to carry that off while still holding on to your uniqueness as you sort of blend and flow between two distinctively different, not very similar artists. You know, there's all these, I love this, juxtapositions in place as you're performing. And I mean, also for you, you're the only singer in history, Jass, in history, to headline live on the Las Vegas stage as MARIAH Carey. Now that is a real honor. I mean, how does that feel for you? What does that feel like to be the first? And you're extremely good at what you do.
It's an absolute honor. It's an honor that I was asked. I mean, I worked with, for that contract, it was a residency at the Tropicana, Las Vegas, and it was with
Yes.
the world's largest tribute show, Legends in Concert, who I was in contract with for that duration. And they picked me out of, anyone in the entire world, any singer in the entire world, to portray Mariah on their in their production. And it's a privilege to be able to perform as Mariah, and obviously a great respect to her too, because at the same time I was performing, she would have had to okay this, her people, because she was performing 10 minutes up the road at Caesar's Palace exactly the same time I was performing as her in the Legend show. So I don't know if any of her team came down to see came down to see my show. Obviously, I never got a chance to go and see her because the show was 6 days a week and I was performing every night. So I didn't even get a chance to go and see her. But I know that the press responded greatly to my performance, and I had some fantastic reviews saying that I was everybody's hero for being the first person in history ever to perform as Mariah Carey, and that I was a standout performance. I embodied Mariah Carey. I mean, Broadway world, Las Vegas around the clock, several major news platforms came to see my performance, and also a Japanese television company who apparently, which I heard through the management, had said that they'd only come to see this show in the Tower of Las Vegas Strip, and they were really interested in interviewing me. So I did an interview with them after the show. So that was amazing. It was just a privilege.
And it's interesting because you've had a rather eclectic career, but you've traveled a lot. You've been interviewed by some of the major and mainstream media. You've performed with, you've supported um, so many other artists. You know, I would say you are this bouquet of music. And I love we're going to talk about your project later, a little later down, music royalty, but you embody that, Jazz. And what I notice about you is that there's a depth to you. I'm not saying that other singers and artists are shallow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying what I'm sensing from you. There is a real depth to you, and you know your craft, you know your art, and it's deeper. There's just something. There's a depth and a richness that you bring to what you do. And I guess the next question, therefore, would be, as we sort of come along in terms of the stages that we'd be talking about. I'm trying to keep in line with that sort of taking those steps. What was the first time? Can you remember the first time that you actually performed as Mariah, and what did that feel like?
At first, I thought you were going to ask me if I remember the first time I performed. And if you want to hear that story, that's cute too, because my mother took me by the hand, and she used to come and sing a cappella, and we were at a big community event, and she pulled me out into the floor, and she took my hand and said, "Okay, Jass, now you're going to sing." And I remember that, just that will never go away. And I stood there and sung with my mom, and like, she's such great inspiration to me. So that just sort of brought back memories of my first ever performance. Having said that, when I started performing professionally, the first act I actually performed as was Leona Lewis, interestingly, because an agent was looking for tributes, and at the time I really adored Leona Lewis's songs, and I thought she's mixed race, so she looks like me and I sound similar to her. I'm around the same age. Wonderful! I'm going to do a tribute to Leona Lewis. It was really exciting. So that was my first ever professional gig at gala casinos. With regards to Mariah, I mean, my gigs sort of built up. It's really interesting because I started out with a lot of hotel bookings, like an event, a Valentine's event, because obviously Mariah's also got a lot of love songs, and people they adore her love songs, and the theming of the event at private functions in the hotels. I believe that was the first place I ever performed was Mariah, and that was just I mean, I don't. It's hard for me to say which songs or who I perform or who I enjoy performing more because I just love singing and interpreting music. For me, if I'm performing as Leona, Mariah, Whitney, Alicia, I enjoy every single performance. And then moving forward, as Mariah, my career obviously just built, and then I got offered better and better gigs. Obviously, you touched on E17, and I performed in support to E17 on their UK tour as Mariah Carey. And for me, that's a highlight because I've been a fan of E17 since I was a teenager. So it was cool to get a call from the boys going, "Hey, come and open for us on tour." And that was quite a long opening slot because I believe I had around an hour. So I was
Wow.
performing, Emotions. I was performing Always Be My Baby and Hero to like a really sold out, packed out venues with thousands of fans just really, really enjoying it. And they were shouting Mariah, Mariah. And obviously I know I'm not Mariah, I'm
Yeah.
just in character. And they enjoy that because they know that, she's in character. And the E17, they were so nice. They were so nice. And they were really great live too. So it was a privilege and just, it was super, super fun. And it was a great career highlight for me to support them on tour.
And you've traveled quite extensively as well. What was the most I would say, what was the most interesting experience as you've traveled as a performer? Because there's so many different experiences we all have in our daily lives, but as a performer, and whether that's as Mariah or whether that was as Whitney, what was one of your most interesting experiences, and in what country?
Well, actually, I'd have to say that being contacted by Mariah's fans personally before my
Mm.
show in Vegas to say, I booked a ticket to see her and I've booked a ticket to see you the next night. And I'm going to come along, and then I'm going to pay for a meet and greet to come back and see and visit and see you after the show, and meeting some of her personal fans who have been to see her, come to see me, and come up to me and said, "Oh, you've done a fantastic job. I really enjoyed seeing you perform. You nailed it." And that's really cool. That's very, very cool, and I appreciate that from her fans too, the support from them, because that's very, very important to be accepted by her fans for portraying her.
And Mariah's she's got a 5 octave vocal range. Do you have the similar range, or I mean, as we know, everybody's different. But what's your octave range? Because, like I said, I've listened to you so many times, and my first time was a couple of years ago. But
Hmm.
when you performed at Yana Flame's fashion event, I
Hmm.
mean, I too was quite mesmerized because it's like
Hmm.
how, and
That is a really, really interesting question. And it's funny because a lot of people, I mean, if people ask Leona Lewis that question, she will say my range varies from day to day. And that's actually true. Some days your voice will extend higher in your register or lower in your register depending on many factors. And she would say, I don't like to limit myself. So I never actually put a number of octaves on my voice. And then
yeah,
there's lots of reports as well from when Mariah was in her early career saying she has 7 octaves, which is entirely impossible because you can't sing with 7 octaves. Mariah
uh,
sings with 5 octaves purely because she's using a whistle register, which is technically a small vibration of the vocal fold, which allows her to extend above her natural singing range. I sing with super head voice, technically, which is more of the technique of Whitney Houston's head voice. And my
mm,
octave range is probably around 4 octaves. I like Whitney Houston's technique, whereas the stylistics of my voice are probably naturally more closer to Mariah. So that would probably be about my answer. And not many singers, if I don't know if you know this, but most average singers don't have octaves above 2 octaves. So if I've got 4 octaves,
uh-huh,
or anything that's got 4 octaves, you're talking about only a handful of singers in the world that sing within those octaves. Someone like Prince, he's got
mm,
a fantastic octave range. Even Beyonce's range is less than Whitney Houston's or Mariah Carey's, for example. So my octave range is right up there with Mariah and Whitney, and even above singers like higher than singers like Beyonce.
brilliant. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, oh, what should I ask her next? To get more of an insight into who Jazz is. If I had to ask you, Jazz, out of Mariah, Leona, um, Whitney, What are the quirky points about them that you like? What are the fun aspects of those characters that you like?
Okay, with regards to Leona, I'd have to say her movement is really just very interesting because she just really gets into the music when she's performing, and she's not really worried about how her face looks or how her body is moving. She just like really grooves with it. So
Yeah,
when I studied her, I thought it was like a carefree way of performing, which I really liked. And she's got great posture.
yes,
Um, so I had to incorporate that. She's very proper, and I like that about her, and that she really takes her technique very seriously. I like that a lot. With Mariah, actually, it's her sense of humor. It's I
yes.
mean, people have reviewed me also as hilarious, and I'm like, oh my gosh, have they tried? They're not insulting me, believe me or not. They're going, wow, she's really captured the fun element of Mariah's personality, because people think that Mariah is, this they forget she's not just a balladeer with a large vocal range. She sings R&B, hip hop, soul, pop, all kinds of fun songs, through from fantasy to Loverboy, and she has a crazy sense of humor. She'll even make fun of herself. Like, she's got an alter ego called Bianca with dark hair, and she'll interview herself and give herself a hard time. And I think that fun element is the best part of her live show, is just being a little bit cheeky with the audience and fun. Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys is just so cool.
She
I
is.
mean, you can't get cooler than her. She's got that old school vibe, and she really embraces her look without makeup as well. She did a campaign for a couple of years
A couple of
saying,
years.
"Okay, I'm not with makeup," and that's woman power. That is, along with her talent, it's just admirable.
Absolutely. And one thing with Alicia, like you said, she really holds her own. And
Yeah,
she's got that sort of cheeky sort of look about her. It's almost
yeah.
like, I own this.
She's a great example of her, a singer-songwriter who really knows who she is and is not letting
Definitely.
anyone tell her what to sing or how to perform. And she has 15 Grammys, so she's in a lot of demand as a tribute too. And out where I am in USA, I'm planning on doing a lot more as Alicia Keys, because she's one of
Mhm.
my favorites. And I enjoy singing her songs and her music because they've got that bluesy
Yeah.
essence to them, which is very natural to me.
And have you actually met Alicia or Leona? Or
No, no,
no.
I haven't met any of them.
Mhm.
I'll have been to two live concerts from Mariah in London, so I've seen her live twice. Um, I feel like I'm a, it's interesting to say this, but I don't idolize people, but I respect and I
Yes.
pay tribute, and I love their skills, but I'm not a fan in that way that I feel gets people lost. Because sometimes,
Yes, absolutely.
they get lost in the image, they get lost in the celebrity culture. For me, it's all about the hard work and the talent, and that's what I respect.
And I love that because for me, this show that I do, Jazz, I like to use the words legends and pioneers because it's
Mhm.
kind of more meaty than just celebrity. So whoever I
Mhm.
interview, it's about the honoring of and the
Mhm.
respecting of someone. This is what they've achieved, this is what they've created, and like you said, it's been hard work, but also it's been desire, it's been achievement, it's been that sometimes that solo journey to make it because it's your dream, it's what you want to do. And for me, it's all of those attributes. And also, you have your partner. He performs a Michael Jackson tribute as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
Jay Lucas as Michael Jackson.
Mhm. Mhm.
That
Yeah.
must be it must be really incredible to have these two tribute
It is.
artists who are quite outstanding, and you're performing in your own individual right. But then, do you actually ever perform together?
Yes, absolutely. And obviously, we met online on Facebook, and I have nothing to say about that. About 4 years ago, and he was performing in Foxwoods at the time, as Michael Jackson, and I was performing. I think I was doing Christmas shows at the time when he contacted me, and I was on a tour of like UK, so I had various venues I was visiting, and we kept in contact the whole time he was doing that contract in Foxwood, and while I was on tour. So we built up a rapport, and we spoke on the phone, almost every day. And then after about 6 months, I decided we decided that I would visit the United States where his next contract was, so we could meet each other, and we just really got along. And over the next few years, we did some work together. Our biggest achievement together to date was when we toured Japan. We did a 10-date city tour, and that was incredible. He opened as Michael Jackson, and the Japanese, they adore Michael Jackson. They adore Jay Lucas as Michael Jackson, because he's, in my opinion, he's the best Michael Jackson tribute you will ever see. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, he's my man. I'm saying that because from a technical standpoint and from experience within the industry, he's phenomenal live. So to have him perform and then to perform with him and also to duet with him, it's such a wonderful feeling. So our relationship built up sort of as a work relationship and a friendship to begin with. Excellent. And then when I headlined in Vegas, after Vegas, I visited him in where he, you know, his hometown is from South Carolina, and we decided to become engaged. And it was such a surprise to me because he proposed to me on my birthday on May 23rd, and I had no idea it was coming. But I mean, the journey so far with us is incredible, and we've got much more to come because we've started our own new project, Music Royalty, which you asked to learn about.
Yeah. So this nicely leads on to Music Royalty. Just tell us a bit more about that. I really love the title Music Royalty because it's loaded with so much. But I think what makes it quite I would say a little unique is that you talk about not being in awe of people, but celebrating them for their hard work and their attributes. So, and then you say music royalty, we know that you're bringing a slightly different take to that. So just tell us a little bit more about that, Jass.
That's a great interpretation. It's like, yeah, exactly. Our slogan is honoring the greatest. And, you know, in the future, that might also branch out into honoring the greatest in other areas with our talent, you know, because my husband, interestingly enough, is a massive golf fan, and he loves Tiger Woods. So we've even talked about our brand Music Royalty is going to be about everything we do. It's from through to our songwriting. I'm also a producer. I mean, through to our live concerts as tributes, to our making an original album, compilation album, touring. It's expansive, and maybe even building an educational establishment, training academy, for young people who want to learn how to perform like Music Royalty. So there's a lot to talk about with Music Royalty with regards to just all the different directions we can go in. And obviously, we're not just going to homage Michael Jackson and Mariah Carey. Having said that, our show, Music Royalty, the King and Queen of Pop, is and will be the only show on the planet in homage to both Mariah Carey and Michael Jackson, and their over 30 #1 hits. So that show is going to be in a lot of demand, and it's probably going to kickstart Music Royalty. It's going to be the show that we want to build awareness of our brand with to begin with. And then moving on from that, we're going to have concerts involving the other tributes we do. My husband is a fantastic professional dancer as well as singer and songwriter in his own right. I mean, he can sing, and he performs in tribute to Justin Timberlake, which is one of my favorites that he can perform as. And he's also a great mimic. He will make you, he can mimic anyone. He could host an entire show as a rap artist, for example. I have to get him online on another interview so you can hear just how fantastic he is at impersonations as well as singing. And he trained in LA in dance, and he's worked as a professional dancer for Nickelodeon, MTV. He's worked for Royal Caribbean. He's been performing on cruise ships since he was around 19 to 20 years old. So he's an extensive background as a singer, dancer, and choreographer. And he's a huge part of what will make Music Royalty work as well, along with all the skills I bring and all the different voices and characters and skills I have. He's dancing in the background right now. He's listening to me. He's thinking, I hope you give me a good write-up, Jass. Yeah, I mean, he's super talented.
And you know what's really nice? I just love the passion that you have about him. And about the future. And I
Uh-huh.
guess how did you guys manage with COVID and the lockdown and everything that brought? Because for a lot of people, it was time to reflect, to meditate, to contemplate, to do something new, discover something new. How did you guys um, experience the lockdown?
I'll say it has been tough, but I mean, my husband was actually still working in contract for a lot of the duration because one of the companies he's working for previously, Legends, because he also worked for them for a long time, for 10 years, I believe, they were still open in some of their locations. So he wasn't entirely not working. I think it was about one of the only shows that was still open. So he worked maybe 60% out at the time that COVID lockdowns were on. Whereas I going in a different direction and decided after Vegas, I kind of wanted to I've always worked freelance, so that's what I've been working towards. So I started working on the music royalty, promotion, website, branding. So I started doing that kind of work. And in between, when he wasn't performing, he worked as a golf pro. Because I mean, we had to go off to the side a little bit. He's an avid golfer, and I said, honey, while we're in this little slump, you're gonna have to work something else while we get settled. So he was working as a golf pro. I have an interesting thing to tell you though. We had to put off our official engagement celebrations and parties and everything too, because financially we didn't want to spend the money during COVID-19 lockdowns, and I think a lot of people would be in that position. But we have a magazine who's interested in doing a whole write-up and expose on our wedding. And we've put that off to next year, so that's exciting to come because they're going to do a whole spread on our wedding as well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. It feels like the universe is conspiring to support you. It doesn't matter whichever way you go, it's conspiring to support you. And I just see this huge energy building out from you in terms of everything that you put your hands to. It's a bit like having the Midas touch, Jazz. And time is going quite quickly. We've literally got about 4 minutes left. And so I guess the next thing that I would like to ask you, and is he still there dancing?
He's
Okay.
still there. He's telling me he's not only a Michael Jackson tribute, he's a scratch golfer. And I'm like, okay, they want to hear about music royalty, honey. I love his golf, and he's super talented at that too. But I think we may have to incorporate, the greatest Tiger Woods into music royalty at some point, and just have like a whole host of the greatest and everything on our roster.
Yeah, go whatever you want to do it. Just do it. More than that, my dear, can I ask you, would you rendition on whether it's a Mariah Carey or whether it's Whitney or whoever comes to you? It'd be lovely to if we can hear a rendition of your beautiful voice.
I'm not entirely sure what you said at the beginning part of that because I lost you on the mic feed a little bit. And
Okay.
one thing I do as a professional entertainer is I never do it on the spot, anything, because it's just part of my branding. And it'd be a bit like if you went up to a violin in the street and said, hey, just play your violin. For me, there's a right place for performance, and it's on the stage. And I like people to see me in my element, in costume, in makeup. Interestingly, I always sing 100% live. People have tried to accuse me of lip syncing. I have never lip synced a note in my entire career, period. And I think, that is a great achievement in itself. And I plan to continue to sing live. And I do hope the music royalty launches that you will come over to the United States and come to the showcase, because we would love to work with you and have you there.
Definitely, because I'm hoping to come over in July. So yes. Well, Jess, it's been really incredible talking to you. And okay, then since I didn't get my song, what,
You'll get your song. I'll dedicate it, especially when you come to the show.
and everybody who's listening to this, you see I'm being held to this, right? But I guess
Yeah.
ultimately, as the last, what would you say to anyone who's following their dreams, who may be sitting on the sideline and thinking, where do I start? What would be one piece of advice that you would give to them, Jess?
Do the work across the board, through from your talent to your marketing, your image, your presence, your work ethic, your personality, your relationship building skills. Be humble, be hardworking, be genuine, be honest.
Yeah.
But do remember that the industry isn't always about talent. Not to say that you shouldn't work on your talent, but you don't necessarily get the opportunity or cast because you're the best at what you do. So keep up the faith, keep looking for those opportunities. And if something goes by you, it wasn't the right opportunity for you, move on and find that next opportunity and keep your head up.
Excellent. Love that last bit. I'm talking to Jass Meagher, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm looking forward to coming to
Certainly,
Jamaica. I'll be the one in the front row waving at you.
I look forward to that.
And also do look out for what they're doing in terms of their project Music Royalty. And just wishing you all the
I just meant to say you can visit musicroyaltyconcerts.com. That's where everything to do with our branding and music royalty is going to be. Musicroyaltyconcerts.com.
And you'll be able to see Jass and Jay Lucas performing. Bye, Jay Lucas.
Oh, you saying bye over there too. Maybe we can have a double interview at another point. All right, it was lovely speaking with you, Esther.
All right, thank you so much. Bless you and hope the ultimate best. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hope you are enjoying the show today. We're going to take a break in a minute, and on the other side, I will be talking to British UK artist Tony Momrelle about his single Escape, which was written during the lockdown. So, you're listening to On the Sofa with yours truly, Esther Austin, on LN Soul Radio.